Nscaler454 here. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be building my latest 3D design, a 53-foot semi-trailer, obviously in N scale, so stay tuned. This product comes in 4 parts. We have the main body, the frame, the wheels, and the jacks. Now the first thing to do is remove it from the supports, and I cannot stress it enough to get yourself some flush cut pliers. Now I use some Kleins, but there are some better products out there, especially ones with a much pointier tip, and that allows you to get into any of these really small, tight spaces, and that can be very helpful. But getting some of these really helps remove this stuff without damaging it, because this stuff's very brittle, so you gotta be very, very careful. Also, having a sharp hobby knife can be very beneficial in some of the tighter areas as well. There we go. In the design, I added these supports right here in order to keep it as square as possible, but these are removable. Now, I should mention that the inside of this area right here can sometimes still be slightly uncured. If that's the case, you can simply leave it outside, get some sun to it, and that will cure it over some time. If you have access to like a UV light, that will cure it very quickly in just like a minute or so. And the reason why that happens is because the supports block a lot of that underneath, and the UV light can't get to it, so it can not cure the insides like this as well as the outside. So just be aware of that. Sometimes it'll break right off. Other times you might have to use your cutter to break it free. There we go. These small parts, you got to be very, very careful with. Now this right in here, there's a lot of little supports, so I'll try to break those off with a knife. Like that. And now, theoretically, it should be about ready to pop. There it goes. With these out of the sprues, naturally the edges are not going to be perfect, so you're going to want to do some cleanup. And I use a small file, my flush cut, and maybe even a large file for really large flat surfaces. You'll see what I mean in a second. Now, starting with the body, there's these little tabs right here. These are part of the design, so you do not want to sand those off. Those are your intermediate lights. So I take my file right here, and I just go right against that edge, and I'll sand that down. The next important part is these edges right in here. Because that's where those supports were, there can be little bumps, and we don't want those there. Now, sanding can be a challenge, but if you use your flush cut pliers, you can take that edge, you can get in there and just drag across, and that will cut some of that out. The other importance to this is right in these corners, in a 90-degree corner, I should say, that there's sometimes the resin can build up and it's not perfect as in the design model. So using some sort of hard edge like this will gouge into that and square that up much, much better. For the frame, you can see it's a bit lumpy where all the supports were attached to, and that's where a big file like this will come in handy. Place it down and just run it across. And the same deal with this edge right here. You can use a file right here, but I find that using this flush cut plier blade Works really good. Now, if you're asking why can't I make this fit a little bit better, there are tolerances built into the model, but you can't go too crazy with that, otherwise it'll just kind of float in the body, and you don't want that. Okay, we'll do our first test fit. Put that in, and it's not bad. Now, these parts of the frame right here, that should be flush with the edges right here. So, I mean, if you really wanted to, you could take, a flat edge or something like that. But if you just look down it, you'll see how well it's fitting. So it's close, but not perfect. So I'm going to work on that a little bit more. And you can also see on the front edge right here, again, that should be completely flat. Now I want to show you a couple of features that I designed into the trailer. You'll see 3 little notches in these frame rails right here, and you'll see a tab in the frame for the wheels. This allows you to change the wheelbase based on your visual preferences. The farthest one back would be 80 inches to scale, the middle one is 100 inches, and the farthest one forward would be 120 inches. Now it is a tight fit, but all you need to do is just slide that along until you feel it grab or get roughly where you want. And when you do, take something to kind of press it in. Like I said, it is quite a tight fit. Like that. Now that was just the test fit to make sure it sits nice and flush. We'll pull that off and we'll glue it. When you're gluing it, I recommend super glue. The regular model glue isn't good for resin, so super glue is the way to go. But once it's on, that's it, it's on. Of course, it's a little bit messy and a little bit stinky too. I'll put this back in place. Make sure that it's looking good. Perfect. While that dries, I'll show you why I have the jack as a separate piece. In other trailers I've seen, in some cases the jack sticks so far down that it looks good when it's parked, but when you attach it to a truck, the jacks drag on the ground. I don't like that. Or alternatively, they stick so far up into the frame that they look good on a truck, but they look kind of stupid when you have them parked. This allows adjustment for either one of them. It is quite tight of a fit, but I did design a little bit of tolerance in it so that you should still be able to paint it, which is going to be the next part of the process. For paint, well, for the body, I'm going to be using this Rust-Oleum semi-gloss white. And for the frame, I'm going to be using Rust-Oleum flat black. With the body and chassis painted, we can now paint the details onto the body here. Now you can paint this by hand if you want, but the best way to do it is to tape it off. And I'm going to use some painter's tape, and that will ensure a nice sharp edge. Once you have your tape in place, make sure you drive in the edges to ensure that the tape has stuck down so you don't have any seepage going through. For paint, I'm using Tamiya's XF16 flat aluminum and the X28 thinner to thin it out and allow the paint to flow a little bit smoother. Paint in there. And just this tiniest drop of thinner. Oh, it might be a little too thin actually. I think it is, so. That's better. Now you'll notice we did not paint the back in here, so you have to be really careful. That's why I'm using a very fine tip brush. This is a 20-0. That part is done. This isn't quite perfect, but it'll do. The next step is to paint the taillights, which I just use a sharp toothpick, dab it in some red paint, stab it in. Like so. And now I'll use some orange paint so I can paint these intermediate lights right here. Once again, I'm just going to use a toothpick. Just dab that on. We'll go ahead and pull off our tape and we'll see how this looks. Not too bad. To finish out the painting, I just painted the rims a Tamiya X2 white. Unfortunately, I didn't record that. But I just use a fine brush, take my time, go around, and I thin that out a fair bit to let it flow. And because you're painting over black, sometimes the white is a little bit off, which in my opinion is okay because it makes the wheels look a little dirty, maybe even more realistic. There, that'll do. Now to really make the trailer pop, we need to add some decals or decals or however you want to pronounce it. I got these from CMR Products. You do have to cut these all exactly to the size that you want. So make sure you have a very sharp hobby knife and ideally a ruler. So we're going to cut these off and we're going to start with these long ones right here. And I should mention, if you haven't noticed, that you can get 2 trailers per set of decals. If it isn't obvious, this takes a heck of a lot of time. So I'm going to go and pick out the decals that I want on my trailer and go ahead and apply them, and we'll check back and see how it looks. I'm not sure I really want the big logo on there, but I'm going to do it just for the sake of this video. Okay, that actually looks pretty straight right there. So we're going to... Now it is probably a good idea to spray the body with a clear coat to protect the decals. I did try it on a different trailer and the results were not great. So I'm not even sure which product or process to use, but I'll try it again and see how it turns out. But I'm not sure it's 100% necessary, but it's probably your best practice. So there she be. What do you guys think? I love them. I think they are really good looking, and I think they are perfect for, say, distribution centers or any kind of facilities that are doing a lot of trucking. Like I said before, the decals really set it off to make it look realistic, and I think that is critical to the look of it. And they look awesome in a standalone position. like I said, if they're sitting, you know, in a distribution center or something in a loading bay, or if you have, say, a Trainworks Freightliner truck, you can pop that on and it looks awesome together. Look at that. Whew. So I am liking it. I will be putting these on nscaler454.com. I just need to do a couple of tweaks to them before they actually go up for sale. So just keep an eye on that. You can send me an email, which you can find on nscaler454.com if you are interested in buying some of these. And then I'll have an idea of when they come out, and I can, you know, email back to you guys that are interested. So that will do it for this video. If you guys liked it, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and thanks for watching.